Hello and welcome everyone. This is Chef Pennington in Austin, Texas, where we bring flavor to the table, and that's exactly what we're doing today. Today is Instapot Texas chili. Take a look at these chili powders, y'all. This is the magic. It's all magic. We're using great ingredients today, but searching for really good chili powders is going to really take your chili to the next level. And with the internet these days, if you can't find them in your grocery store, it's easy peasy to go find these, which is awesome. It's like being your own chef. You can be like, oh, I found this wonderful chili powder. I'm gonna mix a little of that in next time. And then the recipe just evolves over time till you get your flavor profile that you want. Well, that's what this recipe is. I've been doing this for a very long time. When I started out making chili, I wasn't making good chili. And over time, you just make those little bitty tweaks. I think cumin's really one of the big ingredients, y'all. I really do. Everyone talks about chili powder. I think the level of cumin is the magic. And here's one ingredient that does not go in the Texas chili. We do not put tomatoes, ever. It's against the rules. It's not Texas chili anymore. I do like tomatoes in my chili, but we're making Texas chili today, and traditional at that. So no tomatoes and no beans. No beans either. Doesn't mean you can't add them to this very recipe. So we're using an assortment of all kinds of wonderful chilies and dried chilies, and we're gonna talk about these in the video, so don't worry about what you're seeing here right now. And the variety is what makes this dish a winner. And it is a winner. I was fortunate enough to win the People's Choice Award a few years back ago here in Austin, Texas, which was it was a really proud day. You know, you've got hundreds of people here. You're cooking to try to get first place if you're lucky enough. I got nothing from the judges, but all the people that walk around that come into the chili cook-off, they got a ticket. And what you do with your ticket is you put it in everyone has their own big jug. You put your ticket in there, the one that you think's your favorite, and mine won, and that was a really cool day. And this recipe is in essence of that, and I say essence because it's the same recipe, but I've upgraded a little bit. I like using 2 cuts of meat here. I'm using beef. You could use venison. You guys could even go vegetarian if you wanted to, put a bunch of like mushrooms in there and that kind of good stuff. But I like getting some good stew meat and cutting it up myself so I can control the size. I like a meaty chili. You know, you could just use ground beef, which would be totally cool and wonderful at that. But being a chef, I like to think about textures. So that's why I like to cube up the beef myself. Little oil into the Instapot on the saute setting, and we want to just really sear the meat. It doesn't have to really put color on it. We just want to cook it a little bit. So whenever we put it in the Instapot and we cook it for a while, the meat won't just dry out. We need to do that point. So I'm starting out with a sweet Texas onion. You could use any kind of onion you want, totally not important, so don't get hung up on that little fact. And I've got a poblano here. I love poblanos. I use them in place of bell peppers almost exclusively, and they're not really hot. And one of the ways you can tell if a pepper is really hot at the store is looking at it. If it's got a curved stem, that means it's gonna be hotter than the ones that have straighter stem. And I talk about that quite often. If you guys are following me, you've probably heard that before, and it's a really good tip. So there's a Anaheim right there. Anaheims, they can be hot. They're kind of one of those sneaky peppers that you can't really tell when you're buying them at the store. It's one of the little sneaky ones that kind of breaks the rule. So an Anaheim can be just kind of like a mild, or it can really come out. So here's something that's kind of cool. If you guys are kind of curious to what a pepper tastes like and you're worried that it might be too hot, you can just bite off the little bitty point at the end and it's not gonna be hot. Even with the habanero, when they are super hot. Here's the cool thing. A lot of folks don't know this about peppers, is that they're actually very fruity. Yes, they can be hot. And this part I'm cutting out right there, the rib and the seed, that white part is actually hotter than the seeds, guys. So I keep a little bit. I like to clean them up just a little bit where there's gonna be some heat, but I'm not trying to blow anybody's heads off. I like balance of flavor. Here's an ancho. Anchos have become very popular. They have a sweet flavor. They're not hot. And they're actually a poblano that's been dried. So we're using 2 different forms of a poblano, really. But as they dry, their flavor profile sweetens and the heat just softens, which is pretty cool. Here's a habanero. Habaneros remind me of like a peach flavor. And if you put that whole habanero in there, yeah, we're taking the heat up. And we're not doing that with this recipe. We want it to be pleasing to most people. You can always adjust the heat a little bit. So think about when you're shopping for your peppers about how straight the stem is. Some peppers you might want them to be a little hotter than others, and so forth. So this is a hot one right here, guys. These are Thai chilies, also known as bird eye chilies, and they're the hottest one we're using so far. The habaneros are really hot. So look how little amount I'm using. You could use 2, 3, 4. Today I wasn't feeling like going crazy, so I just went with 2 just to put a little bit of flavor on there. Next time I'll probably use 2, 3 to 4 maybe. So this looks like a guajillo, but this is actually a Mexico City chili, which they're not as hot as the guajillo. I like the guajillo. I go for them all the time. Be very careful when you're cutting these because they are waxy and your knife can slip. So just don't be in a hurry when you get to the guajillo, which is what I would suggest you use. But today at the grocery store they had Mexico. So we want some bell pepper. The bell pepper is going to do 2 things. It brings some sweetness. It has no heat whatsoever to it. And you'll notice the bowl to the left. We're reserving some of these peppers because we're making a base right here. That's what this is. This is the base of our chili. This is Texas red chili, and they call it red chili because we use chilies and we turn them into a base like this. So we're putting it in the Instant Pot. We're still using the saute setting, and we're gonna cook it a little bit. It's gonna soften the heat level when we cook it, almost like sweetening the peppers. Very important process. If we just dump that in there and let everything go, we're gonna have a completely different chili. See how there's bubbling away right there? You wanna see that? Because that is gonna be cooking out some of the heat and maturing the flavor of all the peppers together. They're getting happy together. So we got our meat in there. The bowl that we were reserving some of our goodness, this is gonna be texture in our chili. We need a little bit of texture here. Now in a true Texas chili, if you're in a competition, none of these vegetables can be noticeable. They can be very, 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 very little, but the rules are is it should not be discernible. I like texture, so I want to put a little bit of that chopped up of the ingredients that are in my base, so I kind of know what's in there, and it creates a really nice mouthfeel. So I have a recipe card for you. The link's going to be below. We talk about all these measurements and all that kind of stuff. So easy, and it's printable, it's savable, all that good stuff. So the chili amounts, I would like to be very clear, is an approximation. Like we're using tablespoons and whatnot. I like to use a Texas size tablespoon, which is heaping. It's a little bit over. So we're using sirloin, low fat. We don't want the fatty oils to end up in our chili. A little bit of it's very delicious and good, but we're gonna use a lean ground meat and use sirloin. Believe it or not, sirloin has more flavor than your traditional chuck. Chuck doesn't really have a lot of flavor. It's just kind of one of the things. I've got a link below for how to make your own beef stock at home, which is amazing. It's a clean beef stock, and you even end up with beef butter. If you've never heard of that before, try making a Philly cheesesteak and put some beef butter on it. You guys are living. It's a really good post. You should check it out. It's as good a beef stock as you could ever make. So I'm going for 30 minutes here. 30 minutes is perfect. The chunks of beef cook all the way through, and they're tender, and that's what we want. That's when you know that it's safe to open your Instant Pot. That little lid drops down, and everything's good. That's the big scare that people have with pressure cookers, and they provide us with that nice little drop-down deal. Now you can see right there, that is a beautiful color. We got some pieces, which is what we love. It's Texas red chili, so we want to see that red. The flavors, guys, are so amazing. You're gonna love it, I promise you. It's one of my most successful posts on the website for my traditional Texas chili. I'll put that link below so you can check that post out. Here are some other wonderful posts on our website and a link back to our homepage. Come check out all the cool stuff we've been doing. Recently did a Texas bolognese, and y'all have the best.